All right, welcome to challenge number 2. We'll get right into it. As before, pause the screen, give yourself 2 minutes to come up with the answer. Here is challenge number 2. All right, welcome back. Let's walk through this question. So, what you're being asked to do here is to evaluate a company's DR plan. And this is actually quite a common thing. Companies will have external parties come in to audit or review their DR strategy to make sure that they're not missing anything or they have some incorrect assumptions. And so that's what we're being asked to do here is let's review their documentation and see where we have some concerns. So let's start at option A here. In the case of an AZ failure, the database will auto fail over to one of the read replicas. Well, Aurora can auto fail over to a replica, but looks like they're using MySQL here, and MySQL can't automatically fail over to one of the read replicas, at least not yet. So this one is suspect to me. Moving on to option B. The app servers are defined in an auto-scaling group to keep a minimum of 6 instances equally distributed across multiple AZs. Well, we can define minimum instances for an auto-scaling group, and the only possible concern here is they might not be exactly distributed evenly if resource availability is a problem in a given AZ. However, we can mitigate this by option F, by purchasing additional reserved instances in each AZ. But I think that's maybe reading too much into it. This is a perfectly reasonable approach, is using auto-scaling groups to specify a minimum number of instances. Option C says ELB has cross-zone load balancing enabled, so the traffic is distributed equally across all the app servers. Cross-zone load balancing is a really good way to make sure that all your instances are being equally used, no matter which AZ they're in. And without cross-zone load balancing enabled on your ELB, each ELB endpoint will tend to use the resources that it only has access to in that specific AZ, which could lead to some disappropriation of resources. So I like option C. Option D says the app servers are configured for RAID 0 to provide both performance and redundancy for local data. So if I remember back to our RAID conversation, RAID 0 doesn't provide any redundancy. So if they're assuming that RAID 0 is going to give them data redundancy, then this would be an incorrect assumption. So I don't like this one at all. Option E says we use Route 53 health checks to determine and remove routes to unhealthy app servers in under a minute. Well, since we appear to be using an ELB, we wouldn't use Route 53 to try to update routes to specific app servers. We would let the ELB do the health checks for us. So this one sounds a little strange. So I don't like that one. Option F says that a minimum of 2 reserved instances have been purchased in each of 3 AZs to be used by our app servers. This is a good practice. If you absolutely have to ensure 100% that you're going to have those resources when you need them, then buying reserved instances is about the only way that you can guarantee that you're going to have access to those. Option G says, to provide the best read performance, we've chosen to use the MyISAM storage engine for our MySQL database. If I look back to the question, it does appear that they're doing read replicas already with their MySQL database. And the thing that doesn't make sense to me in this statement is that MySQL replication is only supported using the InnoDB database engine. So we probably aren't using the MyISAM engine in our MySQL server here. So that may be just a incorrect assumption or maybe an error in the documentation. So to sum it up, I think I would point out A, D, E, and G to them as things that maybe are errors, or maybe they're under a false assumption that these things will help them with their redundancy. So those are my final answers.